So let's see. Oh, I'm so bad at this. Let's see. Screen? Yeah, let's do it this way. Alrighty. And then we're gonna go to PowerPoint. Oh, just go back. Okay. So, like I said, I'm Erica Latorre. I'm a third year at the Idaho College of Osteopathic Medicine, which is abbreviated ICOM, easier to say. I'm also a naval officer in the United States Navy right now. And the way I'm able to do both is I'm what's called an HPSP Scholarship recipient. It stands for the Health Professions Scholarship Program. And all that means essentially is that the United States Navy pays for my medical school, as well as a stipend for me to live on and a couple other things. So originally I'm from Idaho, North Idaho to be specific, and that's a picture of the lake that I'm from. That's Coeur d'Alene Lake. It's a super pretty town, very, lots of forests, lots of outdoors, hiking, swimming, all sorts of things. So because of that, I personally love water sports. I like to paddleboard a lot. I also paint. I love watching movies and Netflix. Who doesn't? Um, I like live, like country folk music, like in small bars sort of thing. I'm not a big, 3-day festival person, but and then I like baking and I like honesty and loyalty in human beings and my friends and my family. So I'm 27 years old currently. I'm biracial, which will kind of come in later when I explain my background. I'm Caucasian, my mom's white, and my dad's Hispanic. So I got some good olive skin, doesn't burn. Okay, so this is kind of my scholastic journey and job. I have a career job in there too. It starts from the bottom actually and goes up. I made this a little backwards. So I went to high school first, 4 years from 07 to 11. Just some basic stats. I got about a 3.7 GPA in high school. Played sports, volleyball, track. I was on student council, volunteered when I can, did all that. Then I went to undergrad. From 2011 to 2015. I got my bachelor's of science in exercise science. I had about a 3.2 GPA, which when you apply to medical school isn't super high. It's a great GPA in general, it's fine. I was also part of a sorority, which gave me plenty of leadership opportunities and philanthropy opportunities as well. I also worked in the college football program. I filmed for them. So that was actually a really cool experience that ties into my desire to go to med school. I did research. I was a volunteer and I volunteered all the time in different organizations, and I had a couple ones I did all the time that I did all 4 years. And then I was also what we called a voice advocate at my university. That was just a center on campus where students and faculty and grad students too could go if they had a sensitive topic that they needed to talk to someone about, and that like stalking, sexual assault, domestic violence, those sorts of more serious topics. And I would advocate for them and help them find resources that they needed or counselors that they needed. So then after undergrad, I actually I took 6 months off, took my MCAT, and then I went to grad school in the fall of 2016 to the spring of 2017. It was a one-year program, but it was actually a 2-year program squished into one. So it was a lot. It was really hard. I didn't really have a life, but I was able to swing a 3.9 GPA. I worked really hard for that, and I knew I needed it to boost my application. I worked 2 jobs and I did research all at the same time. So, like I said, I didn't really have a life. After grad school, I decided to take a break. I was pretty tired of school, and I moved to Huntington Beach, California. At the time, that's where my boyfriend lived. We were long distance forever, so it was just like, I'm gonna go to California. It's gonna be awesome. I don't have to be long distance. Pros all over the board. And I actually taught private school there. So I've taught math and science to students age, whenever middle school starts, I can't remember, middle school to high school. So, and that was a really good experience, honestly. But it also made me miss school, being a student, which was good because I appreciated medical school when I got in a lot more, I think, than some of my counterparts. So now I'm in medical school, started in the fall of 2018. Currently a third year, and I'm in Boise, Idaho. right now. So that's Southern Idaho. So this is something that always comes up, is the undergraduate career. So I'm always asked, what did I do in my undergrad? Like, you know, for my application, or like besides school and all that. So my extracurricular activities, these are some of them. So I did do research. I did research as an upperclassman, like a junior, senior in my undergrad. Um, I also did research during grad school too, a different research project. So, but when I was an undergrad, I was what they called a McNair Scholar, which was a special program for first generation or minority students, where they basically, once you got in, they funded everything. They gave you funds to do research. They gave you funds to get ready for the GRE, which is the test to go to grad school if you wanted to. They had speakers come and speak to us. Like, it was a really good program to help us, because we were a little more disadvantaged, not having parents who could, you know, get us those connections or show us how to do things. So it was really awesome. I also volunteered. Like I said, sorry, there's a dog outside. I was in a sorority. Our philanthropy was women's literacy, or, you know, women's reading. So we always went to the library. We helped children. We volunteered at elementary schools. I also worked at a soup kitchen in town called the Collective Kitchen. It was really cool. It was a soup kitchen that actually was an old diner. So when you went to the soup kitchen, it was like going out to eat with your family. It was just more of a warm environment, and you didn't have to feel like you were in a soup kitchen, for those who needed the food. I also worked a ton of jobs. I worked in football. That was my like all 4 years job. I was a fit model for a company that was just in town because it was extra cash on the side. I worked in a clothing store. I worked in a nursing home. I was a chiropractic office, like front desk lady, and kind of like I gave them treatments prior to their adjustments. And then I worked in the hospital. All of those gave me experiences that helped me in my application. Again, clubs and organizations, sorority, Be the Match, which is the bone marrow registry. I helped out with that every year. I was in the pre-med club on campus, and I was at the Voice Center, which I went over previously. Hobbies, I love to snowboard. I was in Bozeman, Montana for college, and lots of snowboarding there. I like to weightlift and work out, and then intramurals was fun. So I'm pretty active in most of my activities. Okay. The HPSP Scholarship. So like I said, I'm in the Navy. That's me at training. Training for the Navy is always on the water, which is nice. It's pretty. That's a yacht town in Newport, Rhode Island. Basics of the scholarship. It pays for your tuition, which is amazing. I don't have to worry about interest on my loans or even taking out loans. And some of my classmates are stressed out about that, on top of the stress of med school, and it can be a lot. So especially if you already have loans from undergrad. So they also pay for your health insurance, which once you turn 26, which I'm 27, you can't be under your parents. It's actually a thing you worry about. They pay for books, supplies, and they give you a decent stipend to live off of, which varies depending on where you live. They're going to give you more money if you live in a more expensive place. They offer 2, 3, and 4-year scholarships. I obviously went to med school. It's 4 years. I wanted all 4 years paid for, so I applied for the 4-year. It's competitive. So some people think it's easy and some people think it's too competitive to even get. So like I said, it's in the middle. It's competitive, but it is doable. You know, if you are a healthy, driven, well-mannered person with no really bad background, then you're going to be fine. Having good grades helps. All of that helps. So with that, the application process to get this scholarship can be capitalized. I should have capitalized that word. It can be grueling. And by that, I mean long. Like, you think you get all your stuff in, and the military just asks for more. My scholarship application process took about 9 months, which is actually abnormally long. But I had to jump through so many hoops, and I moved halfway through, and it was just very hard. So if you want to and you look into this, just know that although the application process is very stressful, if you get the scholarship, it is 100% worth it, just financially. So it's good for all branches of the military. I chose the Navy because I like being near water, and most of their bases are on a coastline. I'm all for that. And both my parents were in the Navy at some points in their military careers, so that's why I chose that. and this question always comes up. People are like, okay, they're giving you money. What do you owe them? Well, you owe them time. You owe them time as a doctor. So it's a one-to-one payback. They pay for 4 years. I give them 4 years of my life. But the way I see it is I have a job after school, after residency too. Like I'm going to go work somewhere. You get paid while you're paying back this time. So, and sometimes it's a little less than what you could have made in the civilian world or the normal world working, depending on whatever specialty you end up doing. So again, it balances out sometimes. So, okay. This is the other thing. You have an active duty service requirement during the 4 years. So while I'm in school, every year that they give me money, I have to do 45 days of active duty service. And sometimes that scares people. They're like, oh, active duty, you're getting shipped off. But 45 days is a month and a half. And it breaks down like this. So usually for the Navy anyways, the first active duty is your summer between first year and second year of medical school. And you go to Officer Development School, ODS, and that's in Newport, Rhode Island for the Navy. I'll show you guys some cool pictures. It was actually one of the best experiences of my life. And I made some really good friends there. Newport, Rhode Island is a yacht town. It's super pretty. Like I'm gonna go back there whenever I can on vacation. Whenever we're allowed to travel more often. Yeah, and so you get that done. And then number 2, I just finished, and that was in between second and third year. And you usually just do school orders. And what that means is they just change your status to active duty and you get paid a little bit more in their computer system. And you just study for your boards because they know you have to take these boards that are super important. And then number 3 and 4 are usually used during your clinical years for rotation. So you can travel to naval hospitals and do clinical rotations and then audition rotations for the ones you want to try to get into their residency program. So here are some pictures. This is just a few. I have many more, but these are the coolest ones. This is from Newport, Rhode Island. So you get trained not just in life in the Navy, but how to wear your uniforms, how to present yourself, the terms, the terminology, the slang, what everything means. You get trained on how to firefight, which is what this bottom picture is. What people don't know is actually the Navy's nickname is the firefighters because you get fires on ships a lot of the time. So you have to know how to put those out. And so they have this like multi-million-dollar simulator and you actually go in and they're real flames and they're real firehouses and oh my God, it's so tiring, but it was a great experience. And then up here, this is us saving the ship. They have another giant simulator of a boat sinking. And they teach you how to basically plug holes and do damage control and so you can get the water out so you can get back to base or get back to safety and have the ship repaired. And you can see I'm waist deep in water and we had to dive and it was actually a really good experience. So it was a little chilly. That water was quite cold. So, and then here are uniforms at graduation and some of my best buds. You can tell I'm one of the only girls down there, and then a picture of us, we got to go out on the town during our third or fourth week there. So it was fun. It was a great experience. Okay, that's my contact information. I'm also going to put it in the chat at the end. So if you want it, don't jump off right away. But with that, I will open it up to questions. So let me stop sharing here and get back on. Chat. Oh, okay. I'm going to answer the 2 that are in the chat first. So have you found any cons with the scholarship? So not yet. The con that everybody talks about is that it's afterwards. So sometimes some people, they're not ready for military life or they don't actually fully understand what your obligation is after school. So after school in about 1.5 years, I will graduate. I'll be a license. I'll be, I'll have the letters behind my name. I'll be a DO. And I can do one of 2 paths. In the military, sometimes you don't go straight through and go to residency like most everyone would. You go to residency, you get trained, you're being paid, and then you become a doctor afterwards. Sometimes you actually pause your educational career and you go work for the Navy right away. it's called a GMO tour, a general medical officer. And you're basically just a family doc and you get stationed somewhere. And sometimes that scares people because they're like, well, I need training or I'm going to be behind all my colleagues. Like, yes and no. You're going to get paid. It's a job. That counts for your payback time. So 2 to 3 years of GMO is 2 to 3 years of me paying it back that you don't have to do after residency. Now that you already repaid some of it back. And you get a lot of experience, which afterwards, when you apply to residency, they're going to look at that and be like, oh, you did your part already. Like you did the grit and the grut and so, you did some things that maybe other people didn't want to do and you did your time. So like, we're going to let you or put you higher up on our residency list. So pros and cons. Some people do go straight through. They don't do a GMO tour and they just go into residency and then afterwards they work in the Navy for a couple of years and they get out. Some people make it a career and they work in the Navy for the rest of their life. But like I said, it's all about your mindset with the military scholarship, because if you view it as, oh, I have to do this, I don't get to do what I want, you're going to hate it. If you see it as, okay, this wasn't what I was planning originally, but I'm going to adjust and make a new plan. And this is just going to be an adventure and I'm going to try to enjoy every part of it, because the good thing about the military in general is you get sent places that you've never been before. In some places you would never go, and maybe overseas, maybe just to a different coast, or maybe on your coast, just to a town you didn't even know was there. And so those are the pros and cons. So some people hate that, and that is a con. The other con is if I was to become, say, like a surgeon of some sort, like that was the specialty I chose, like a neurosurgeon or a vascular surgeon, they get paid a lot of money. Okay. In the military, you are paid based on your rank, not your specialty. And you do get special pay for being a doctor versus like a enlisted 18-year-old, obviously, and an officer. But you don't make as much money during your years if you're a higher paid specialist on the civilian side. Now, if you're a family doc or pediatrician who don't get paid as much on the civilian side as, say, a neurovascular surgeon or something, super specialized, it actually pays you more. So it just depends on your journey, and you have to make those decisions based on what you want. And yeah. Also, my experience thus far has been amazing. So it's been good. Why did you choose DO? So, and that is, I should make a slide on this, honestly. One of the reasons I personally chose DO was because of the location of my school. And I know that sounds like not actually a reason, because you're always like, why MD, why DO? I was out of the state for 6 years in Montana. And then I lived in California for a while and I got really homesick. I have family in Boise. I have a niece, I have a nephew. They're both my godchildren. And for the first year of most of their lives, I didn't see them ever. I didn't see my parents. I didn't see my brother. And I just missed Idaho. And I knew that I wanted to join the military. So I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling in the future and not get to be home. So I wanted to come back to Idaho, and ICOM was the only medical school in Idaho. In fact, it was in its first year. And although there's a lot of risks with that, I was willing to make it work because I talked to the dean of the school, and there was no BS there. I talked to him. They had a solid plan financially with professors. They had already employed very good professors from other schools, which they kind of stole them from other schools, to be honest. And it was good. So I chose DO knowing that. I also embraced the DO because I was really interested in orthopedic surgery. So the huge difference scholastically is that DOs study OMM on top of all the stuff that like MDs study, right? They do 4 years of biochem, pathology, pharmacology. We do all that. But we also have this additional, I don't know how many hours it turns out to be after all 4 years. They say like 360 or something. It depends on if you want to study it more in depth or not, but it's all about the musculoskeletal system. And so I majored in exercise science and I did biomechanics, and like I like that system. So for me, I was like, okay, well, we're just going to learn about that system some more. And I'm going to learn hands-on techniques that a lot of times are really good for pain, which in orthopedic surgery and those, like, people are coming in because there's something wrong, right? They're not coming in because they're like, hey, I want to be a bionic man and get like a hip replacement and knee replacement. Like, that's not the reason. And so learning that extra technique in my toolbox was kind of cool to me. Um, and I went in fully knowing that there is a stigma in some states. I also know that there is not a stigma in some states, and life is what you make it. So I got in, and I was excited to go home and all that. So for me, it worked out. That's why I chose. A lot of my counterparts have this conversation, and their main argument is that they like the way DOs approach the patient. And half the time, people, they don't actually know what that means. And all it means is when you're in medical school in a allopathic program, so an MD program, the way they teach you to approach the patient as a physician is through disease, which is totally fine because most people do come to you because something's wrong and you have to figure it out. And so you're trying to identify that disease and figure out a treatment to make their life better, which is totally good. In osteopathic school, the way they teach us to approach the patient isn't based on what's the problem, let's fix it. It's let me get to know your overall general story. So when you tell me what this problem is, I can really divulge where the origin of it is and we can fix the whole person. So, like, for example, you come in with GI problems, right? You have constant diarrhea or something like this that's interfering with your life. And what actually happens a lot of times with some people is that it's related to stress or it's related to lifestyle and it's related to diet, like especially with the GI system. You really got to eat well to take care of that. And so for some in the MD pathway, some of them will be, oh, you have diarrhea, let's give you loperamide. Let's stop that. Let's do something, let's change the way you eat. Maybe like they're more about the medications that fix the problem or other therapies. We're more like, okay, we need to figure out what's wrong because if I give you a pill and you're back in 2 weeks, like it's not good. And so I think it's just a way they teach you to think about this problem of health that I really like. People say holistic. My dean literally hates that word. He's like, if you say holistic to me, I will throw a book at you. I'm like, okay. Because apparently that's not what it is. So yeah, but like I have friends at MD schools and they're not going to be bad doctors by any means. Like they're very smart, they're going to be great doctors, and I just prefer the location. I prefer the musculoskeletal component, and that's my situation. So that's why I do. Yeah, that question always gets along. What can we do while in school to prepare our journey to different branches in the medical field? Let's see who said that. Is it Yassine or Yashin?
Yassine.
Okay. Can you do you mean different branches like specialties or different branches like military?
No, I was referring to different branches in the medical field, like whether we could be pharmacists or RNs or doctors or surgeons. What can we do to prepare in school for that?
Okay. Remind me, is everyone here high school or college?
We're high school and college students.
Okay, just to make it relevant. So yes, so pharmacy, basically pre-med anything, not just medical school. So from my experience, you want to do well in your classes. I know everyone says that and you're probably tired of hearing it, but like you need to get, especially in high school, I would try to get a 3.5. Like I would really go for that. If you don't, that's okay. Because at the end of the day, when you apply to pharmacy school or dental school or even law school, which is crazy, or medical school, they don't look at your high school transcripts per se. They're not going to look and be like, oh, did you get a 4.0 in high school? No, they don't care. Okay. They care about your undergrad. So get what you need to get into the undergrad university you want. That's your first step as a high schooler. As an undergrad person in college, your job is to be a well-rounded person. And what that means is, yes, now it's time to really try to get the highest GPA you can. That really is important. But if you look at my resume, I got a 3.2. And part of that was because I switched my major. Part of that was because I was very involved on campus. And it did take a lot of study time. And that was okay with me because that's what made me happy. I didn't want to have no life and I wanted to make connections with people. And that's actually has benefited me in the long run. But then I went to grad school to kind of make up for it and I got almost a 4.0. So it kind of balanced out. When you want to be a well-balanced person in college, you need to do more than scholastic. So whether that's a job, whether that's a super interesting hobby that teaches you something, whether that's volunteering or like any clubs on campus, no matter what they are. I was in a sorority, and yeah, some people have a negative feeling about Greek life, but like for me, I got a lot of opportunities through that. You know, I was the some acronym VP MD of my sorority, and basically that just means I did academics. I made sure all those people were doing academics well, that our sorority had a good GPA, all that stuff. But it was a leadership position that taught me, one, to work with people of all different types, and it just taught me a lot of skills. And so I talked about that. I put it on my resume for med school, and I talked about what it taught me. You know, whether you like sororities or not, I was able to have those skills. If you're in high school, you know, whatever you do, whether it's band or sports or like volunteering for some club or just being in a club, I don't even care what it is. I don't care if it's cooking. Uh, doing something else besides school is important. Because when you go to your college admissions, right? You know, maybe it's a school that interviews people. It's a Ivy League because they do interviews. Or you're writing a personal statement. All those things, those are going to give you experiences to write about that may show something, or you can, you know, whatever it may be. If you're at home studying every single day in high school or college, and you don't ever go out and you don't meet new people, or you don't volunteer, or you don't have those awkward experiences in the cafeteria with the boy you like, or something like anything, you'll have nothing to write about and you'll just be a boring person. And like, do you want to hang out with a boring person? No, no one does. So when you go to these interviews or you apply to pharmacy school or whatever, they want to see who you are because they're going to have to spend the next like 2, 3, 4 years with you. And it's their time too. So it's a give and take. And so just finding out what your individual strengths are and what you like and what you're able to talk about, that's how you get into pharmacy school. That's how you get into med school. That's how you show like, I'm going to be someone whether you like me or not. Because there's professors at my school who, you know, that maybe they're not my best friend, but when they have a conversation with me or they interact with me, they come off that interaction feeling good. You know, I'm nice to them, I'm cordial to them, I ask them how their day is. Those little things go so far because so much of our generation forgets to do that now. And it's seen as rude. So just be yourself, be active in something, and you get to choose what that is. So, sorry, I know I talk a lot. What time is it? Okay. Let's see. Journey, different branches. Okay. On average, how many hours do you study a day and how do you balance school and your personal life? That's actually a great question. So right now I'm in my third year. Actually, hold on. I'm gonna lower the stand you guys are on. I can't really. There we go. I'm in my third year in medical school, which means I'm on clinical rotations. So I don't do a ton of book work like I did my first 2 years. My first 2 years, it was a lot. It was a very big transition. I like to pride myself on being very well organized. Like I had color coded my classes growing up. Like I was a nerd with that. And organizational skills in med school completely got thrown off because there's so much information to shove into your head so fast that's what's hard about medical school. It's not that the information is necessarily difficult. In fact, sometimes I think undergrad science classes were more difficult because it's the first time you're learning a concept. And in medical school, it's more like you already know the concept, but you're learning so many new names and so many new diseases and how they show up and how to like separate them, that and it's coming at you so fast, and you have to learn 2 months worth of what you would in undergrad in a week. That's what's difficult. And so it is setting a schedule, finding a good study group, if you want one. I'm a solo studier. So for me, it's really hard because my friends always want to say, hey, want to study together? And I have to say no, which is another great ability you need to develop, whether it's in high school or college or pharmacy or like any type of school, professional school. You need to know how to set your boundaries, because when you don't, you lose valuable time to balance your personal life and your school life. So one of the hardest things for not just me, but all my classmates, and we all talk about this, was first semester of med school. You're getting to know everyone. You're finding your friends. You're finding who, like, you like someone, maybe you're not going to be best friends, whatever. And it's hard. And you spend so much time socially trying to like balance, like, oh, this is so much fun. This is exciting. I have so much work to do. I'm so stressed. Like, I don't want to act like this person who never goes out because I want to have friends, but I also don't want to get bad grades. And so what you have to do is you have to do a little bit of experimenting, like study with this person and see if it works out. And if you feel like you're getting really behind, say, hey guys, I gotta have my own time. I gotta do my own thing. And maybe that group isn't the one you study with. So you have to be able to set boundaries with people. And that is a very important life skill, a very important thing that I honestly didn't have until like med school. I didn't have it in undergrad. I was always that person that was like, yeah, I'll make it or I'll try to. So I'd rearrange my schedule and hurry up. And realistically, I should have said, hey, no, I really do want to come. Thank you for inviting me, but I have so much work to do and I'm quite behind and I'm stressed out about it. So I'm going to work tonight. But this is my day to have fun. We could try to do something on that day. So you have to be able to set boundaries in a respectful way that doesn't make people think you're kind of diving them, like getting away. That's how you balance personal life and in school. The other thing is to also pick out what in your personal life, what you value more, because you're not going to be able in professional school, at least medical school. I've never gone to pharmacy school. I've never gone to nursing school. So I personally I can't speak on those per se. I know they're hard too. You can't do everything. You know, I like to snowboard. I like to hang out with my family. I like to paint. I like to bake, you know, but in my free time, it's not a lot of free time. So I can't do every single one. So I don't snowboard as much, which is okay because the mountain around here isn't very good and it's pretty far away. And I don't bake as much because I'm trying to be healthy and I put a lot of sugar and sweets into my baking anyway. So, but I do go see my family and I do go to a winery once in a while around here because that's fun to do with my girlfriends. So, you have to compromise, you have to set boundaries, and you have to, yeah, that's about it. I'd say that's about it. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, and how many hours? I would study 12 hours a day, probably, like broken up. Like I'd study in the morning before lecture. I'd watch lectures. They're all recorded. I take my notes. I do my Sketchy, Pathoma, all these other programs that I bought to help me, like, which sounds like a lot, but it's honestly like you get used to doing 12 hours like nothing. So it's kind of, it's your life. You are a professional student in medical school. So it is recommended that a part-time job, is it recommended that a part-time job we take up has to relate to an occupation we wish to pursue? No. I always get that question too. So when I worked, I worked at a hospital. I worked in a chiropractic office. I didn't want to be a chiropractor, but that is still healthcare. You know, you still deal with like paperwork and you learn a lot. I also worked in football. I worked as a fit model, which is basically like a live mannequin. For those of you who don't know, you get paid a lot of money to stand there and they like fit clothes to you. It's a great job. I also got free clothes. That was like a little messed up. And I was like, sweet, cool, awesome.